Management Research.
Hello and welcome to the Management Research podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eugene Bogodistov. Hello and welcome to the next episode of my mini-series dedicated to the topic of well-being at work or burnout prevention using process management tools. And the whole mini-series is built around the book with Jürgen Morman, where we show how we can prevent burnout-like states applying the process management tools. In this part of the mini-series, I'm going to talk about the tools from process management that can help us prevent burnout, can help us organize better work, or can help us understand how our processes look like. In the previous episode, it was in a bit abstract way, we talked about the magic triangle or magical tetrahedron from process management and how it helps us understand whether the processes are optimal or not optimal and whether we have resources that we can dedicate to certain activities in order to increase quality or maybe reduce the level of exhaustion. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the 8 wastes and lean management. Some people say these are 7 ways, some people say these are 8 ways. It depends on what kind of, what version of the theory you take. Anyway, the main idea comes from the lean management or lean thinking. It is one of the approaches in process management. And one part of it is actually trying to understand what is reducing the quality or reducing the speed of your processes. In their analysis of the processes, they suggested the Tim Woods approach. Tim Woods is the abbreviation, but it's easy to notice just because it sounds like a name of Tim Woods. And in the one of Tim Woods, we talk about T for transportation, I for inventory, M for motion, W for waiting, O for overprocessing, second O for overproduction, D for defects, and some people add S for skills. That's why it is sometimes Team Woods, sometimes Team Wood, and then you have 7 or 8 waste in lean management. We call it waste because in each of these aspects, if you look at the process through the prism of each of these 7 or 8 letters, you will find out where you are wasting something. I'm going to give you an example. We talk now about the process management, regular process management, so not related to burnout or emotional exhaustion. In a regular process, transportation may be an issue. For instance, if you have to deliver certain good from your warehouse facility to the final store, and let's assume you apply the wrong routing and you drive not the shortest way, but you take a longer path and then you're losing time. Or instead of applying one lorry, you're using 2 lorries. And you just have the mid-stage, whereas you have to unload your goods from lorry 1 into lorry 2, but actually could have used only 1 lorry. In this event, we talk about the waste in transportation because you're transporting goods not in an optimal way. That's why you need to do something differently. The other example that I can give you is for W, waiting. If in the process you have to wait, let's assume you have to wait, the example from the second last episode, you have the process of producing, let's say, the smartphone, and you have to mount all the stuff, and then you have to cover the cover with the paint, and only then you can install some connectors. But the problem is that if you cover it with the paint has to dry, and then you have the waiting, and you cannot do actually almost anything until the paint is dry, and then you can continue. This, by the way, they say why the Ford produced mostly black cars, because black was the quickest drying paint that they had, and this was the reason why they actually made all the cars black. And as you see already, if you reduce this waste, if you reduce this waiting by something else, if you can introduce an additional, let's say, the process that can be done in parallel, let's say preparing the packaging, you also have to do it, and while the paint is drying for your phone, you can prepare already the packaging. When the phone is dry, you just put it into package. So maybe there are some parallel things that you can do. We also have overprocessing, overproduction, which you can already guess what it is, and defects and skills. If the skills are, let's say, applied in the wrong way. If somebody who has the degree in engineering is doing the work of a mechanic, and mechanic is trying to do the work of an engineer, most likely we have the big reduction of the quality and also wasting a lot of resources. With this theory, we wanted to show that some of the things can also be applied also for job demands and job resources. So in the event of all these mudas, we can only make an analogy of what would it be for the psychological processes. And one of the examples would be for transportation, that actually you can transport something like responsibility. And if you have the feeling of responsibility, then this activity where you have the higher degree of responsibility will drain more of your energy. That is why one of the things of application of this transportation would be to actually distribute the responsibility to those people who are really responsible for certain action, or maybe redistribute responsibilities. Another option would be if you think about inventory, that's in classical process management, it means having the correct equipment. In the event of psychological issues would also be something that having correct equipment. For instance, the clean table, the tabula rasa. We have the really clean table. It means you are not overloaded with different tasks and you are not distracted. Maybe you can talk about the different types of communication where you say, okay, not for every communication we need to meet in person. We can apply Zoom, we can apply Google Teams or some other software in order to kind of provide correct inventory that will fit the needs of the specific person in the specific process. Actually, the idea is, we gave it even to our students, they always find a new way and they have their explanation why is something overproduction or why is something overprocessing. It is a kind of personal understanding. But this 7 or 8 ways approach is actually not a theory, just one of the tools. And this tool is also a kind of analogy, because you have to decide what is overprocessing in your process, and you argue what is overprocessing and why is it not a defect. You can say it is a defect that you have to overprocess something, or it is a consequence of the overprocessing. In this event, as we can apply this analogy to manufacturing processes, we can apply this analogy also to processes that lead to emotional exhaustion, or to cognitive exhaustion, or to physiological exhaustion. That is why I recommend you to take the skills, read through them, and understand what they usually mean for manufacturing. By the way, in services, this will also be a bit different, but let's assume manufacturing, and try to translate to your processes. Try to make an analogy. Try to understand for you what is the defect in your process if we talk about the emotional exhaustion. Is it the fact actually the number of conflicts that are appearing? Or is the fact actually the level when you are so tired that you cannot do anything else and need to take a break? Could also be the fact. Or maybe mistakes that you do in your work because you were distracted by something else, and then you make a typo and then you have to redo all the stuff again. So this is also very cognitively or mentally depleting, energy depleting activity. And with this in mind, I wish you all the best. I really recommend you looking at these 7 or 8 ways, trying to understand what they mean in process management, and then trying to transfer this knowledge through analogy to job demands and resources model, and trying to understand what makes you be exhausted more and what makes you be exhausted less. I hope it was helpful. Wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.